Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to this first ever live show hosted by Scale. I'm Alistair Cole. I'm an ex-software engineer and computer scientist, and now focused on delivering AI strategy and governance for our clients that we deliver them clarity and control. Today's topic is building AI capability that delivers value without risk, and I've got 5 fantastic co-founders and experts with me today. We're going to get straight into this topic and talk about risk versus value. There's some great news out there at the moment. McKinsey states that they're finding that for every $1 that's invested in AI initiatives at the moment, $3 are being returned. So there's some really positive news stories out there. At the same time, all kinds of businesses are seeing the dangers of moving ahead with AI at pace without control. We're seeing databases being deleted in mere minutes. We're seeing the arrival of the legislation in the UK, in Europe, that is really putting the squeeze on all kinds of business, not just regulated SaaS businesses. And so there's pros and cons, and we're trying to help businesses develop their AI capability while minimizing that risk. So without further ado, we're just going to dive in and meet our other co-founders of Scale, these experts. I'm going to start with you, Douglas. I'm going to come to you and ask about engineering, my man. From your experience of what's happening right now in the world of software engineering, what is going on in those teams? How is life different now for junior devs and senior devs following the SaaS apocalypse in February?
Thanks, Al. I just to brief you slightly on how we joined or how we started this. Al and I were talking about AI for a long time now, and it seemed like a natural course to start something like this. So to answer your question, we're seeing lots of different things. It really depends on the level of adoption of AI and any given development team. We have some heavily regulated clients where we don't even have Copilot yet on developers' machines. So in that sort of scenario, there's no real support for the developer at all. Now, if you look vertically to other places, much more modern, newer software, we've got people really taking advantage of agentic development systems that are with agents all over the place, really adding to that software process and reducing the number of people required to do it. So 2 very, very different stories, one sort of almost good and the other almost sort of bad.
Thank you, my friend. That's fantastic. Let's go now to Alistair Mackey. He's a risk expert who's turning AI pilots into governed enterprise-ready solutions, focusing on making AI safer and more controlled. Alistair, to hear from you on your thoughts of the impending AI EU Act, which is due to arrive on these shores and come into full force on the 2nd of August. Which is bringing with it kind of risk and governance challenges for a lot of the businesses that we're working with. Just how worried should other businesses be, Alistair, about the arrival of the EU AI Act and the other legislation that is arriving on these shores?
Yeah, thanks, Alistair. So great first name, by the way. But what I would say is, rather than worried, I think it's an opportunity. I think this is a real classic case of both the opportunity and threat from a kind of SWOT analysis from this. So I see it very much on a risk and reward kind of continuum, that using AI gives the benefits that you spoke about earlier on, about £1 invested and £3 back. So I think you can't ignore it, but you need to embrace it. And I think the teams that are going to really thrive here are ones that actually incorporate it into their DNA, build the risk into their DNA, and have a real kind of auditable structure to their SaaS, and actually an auditable understanding of what AI tools they're using in there. So I think there's kind of 3 bits to it. We do need to regulate this. It's such a powerful technology that we do need to understand what we're doing. on it. It's not a silo, so we need to build it into our kind of DNA, and it can actually be a moat for customers, and for some of the customers that I'm certainly speaking to. They're finding that building the kind of risk into it is actually enabling them to move faster and more reliable in terms of their kind of output.
Yeah, I think that balance that you talked about wanting to move at pace, ensuring that the right guardrails are there, and that's a value and risk challenge, or one of the big ones that covered it off from a technology point of view. Tom, right, you're a resident, culture expert, and the truth is you can have all the AI tools you want, right? But if the people aren't on board in terms of integration and adoption, it's not going to happen, is it? How Tom, should businesses be organizing to deal with the anxiety that a lot of staff have and the kind of passive resistance of getting into these tools? How do we bring about cultural change in this with this new technology, Tom?
Yeah, no, look, so it's great to be part of this discussion and working with you guys on this. So I think it's really interesting when we think about the concept of adoption when it comes to technology. There's so often an approach.
Not sure if you heard my question there, Mr. Kagodi, but I was hoping you might be able to enlighten us about your views on how businesses can deal with the anxiety and the
I think
stress that is evident in I've heard stories of people being exhausted by the human problem. It's obviously not solvable immediately.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a bit of a lag, because I can hear you, Al. I think everyone's nodding to say they can hear me, so I'm not sure if there's a bit of a lag on your side, because I did start answering the question, but I will go again. So I think what's really interesting when it comes to any kind of new technology is when we see technology being deployed and left to its own devices and just hope that it gets adopted, because that's just never going to be the case. And this concept of people being at the heart of the processes and the change, I think, is really interesting when it comes to AI. So the anxiety is an interesting sort of point in itself, right? So it's giving you the information. It's giving you the kind of the data that tells you that something needs to change within your organization. So when it comes to that shift from anxiety into kind of that real place where you've got adoption, I think there's a couple of things that you can do.
You're struggling, maybe.
I'm getting a bit of feedback from you there. So yeah, look, I think there's huge opportunity when it comes to adoption. You need to create the opportunity to lower the stakes, enable people to play with the technology, be curious, and find out how they can kind of use it to optimize the work that they're doing every day, but also the work of the team around them. So there's an opportunity for leaders to create that space. We've already seen if leaders are not on board, then actually that has a significant impact on the level of adoption and the perception of adoption when it comes to the wider team. So there's an opportunity to teach that confidence, but most of that and that adoption really comes when you give people the tools, but also create the cultural conditions that enable them to test, learn, and experience how it can optimize their day-to-day work and their lives.
I'm going to jump in there if that's all right. Well, we come back to Al, but I think that having a risk culture as well in there, and not to overdo that, because I do know that there's the reward in there, Tom, but we do need to have that the mindfulness about how powerful this technology is. If you're thinking about even something like Claude being the kind of enterprise AI of choice, that's got an IQ of somewhere about 130 in everything. So it's going to know 130 IQ of 130 in coding, in opportunities, and it's just a super powerful tool, and it needs to be treated as such. So I do think that culture of risk needs to be kind of permeated with the opportunities that it does bring as well. So hopefully you're back, Al, and we can pass back to you.
Maybe not. Maybe I'll jump in as well, because something you said, Tom, there was really interesting. I think when you said deployed, maybe he's back. When you said deployed and left to its own devices, that really. I think Al's a bit behind, so I don't know. Can anyone mute him from our side?
I'm trying.
I think that really resonated with me from a brand side as well. So I deal a lot with the with like brand voice and brand copy and conversion copy and that kind of thing for SaaS businesses. And a lot of the time I find that they're kind of like, great, let's use AI to write our copy, to do our brand content. And it's the same situation where it's like deployed and left to its own devices. And the risk there is, of course, erosion of trust. So what it's producing is inaccurate in the worst case scenario, but even in best case scenario, it's inconsistent, it's bland, it's beige, it's AI slop. So there's a huge risk factor there as well in the deployment side. So I think what you said about that kind of left to his own devices works across all of our disciplines. So yeah, I think that's a really big one for SaaS businesses to be aware of.
That certainly resonates from a software development point of view as well.
Yeah.
And one of the great things I like with AI is you start to look at brand copy and software code as very, very similar things with the same risks and the same slots. Yeah.
I think what happens as well when you think about it from a cultural perspective, right? And if you're able to, set those boundaries, and I really like what you mentioned, Alistair, around the risk part, right? Because it's almost like, how do we create the right conditions for us to do this responsibly and in a way that aligns with our brand values and the way that we want to talk as well? Because you've all had the kind of the content you've seen with that kind of AI smell, right? And it's or you may have always also been like tricked into thinking that you're talking to somebody human, but actually you're speaking to an AI, and you realize you've been caught out and you think, hold on a minute. So I think that probably comes in, and Jackie, you might have a view on this. Like, when that does come, like, how from a creative perspective, like, what's the way that we can kind of create that environment where we know what's going on and where we are speaking to humans and where we're using AI and what that kind of hybrid looks like?
From the visual perspective, I think we're still going to need art directors and brand guardians to oversee every single thing that goes out into the public domain. We need to kind of keep that human guide at the moment. I don't know how it's going to play out in the future, but certainly for me, AI has improved the speed of some workflows, but there's always going to be some parts of it that I'm not happy with, or you need to kind of put your own refinement on it to get it out into the public domain. And that's what builds the trust. It's, we're always going to see, if humans can oversee everything that goes out, then that's the final nail of the trust, right?
And actually, I'm going to jump in there, because I think that's the problem. One of the big topics is shadow AI, and one of the big that risk reward just now is the agentic AI coming out. So OpenClaw being the big kind of standard bearer as well, but OpenClaw has opened up a deluge of AI tools coming out with their own kind of agents. So thinking Manus, Perplexity, Computer, etc. And this has the opportunity for the humans to be taken out of the loop. So there's the opportunity to have agentic AI and to have workers that work 24/7 that don't really make a mistake, and okay, there's hallucinations, and I appreciate all of that stuff. But you've got agents that don't really cost a lot once you set them up, can pick up tasks, can free up people to do other work. But there is a risk in there that removes the human in the loop. And then, you hear the horror stories, you go terraform destroy, and that destroys all the code base, or you ask it to perform a task, and then it works out the best way to perform that task is to email 400 people through the middle of the night, using your logo, putting out AI slop, and just picking up there. And I think it's a real thing to be aware of, and I'm going to kind of look back into something that we do an AI risk and value readiness, and I think it goes back to Peter Drucker that you need to measure to manage as well. So we need to have that kind of oversight in there as well. So it is real, across the board, Jackie. And I feel your pain as a creative, because
Yeah,
some
when
of the
things
stuff
go out,
you hammer out is unreal. So
when things go out without having been checked, it's just makes you cringe.
like, was it Manchester Airport? Is there's a big sign and the person's got 6 fingers still, and I thought he had AI taking care of that, but maybe not. Are you back, Al? Are you back?
Oh, maybe not quite.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me again now. Am I hopefully I'm live and direct.
Oh yeah. We're worried about you there, Al. We're worried.
Yeah, so no, you shouldn't be. So Jackie's point about pushing stuff out, I mean, that's exactly where AI is empowering software, right, Douglas? We're seeing, you can, just because you can move at extreme pace doesn't mean you should. What is the risk, Douglas, in terms of the kind of like, if we're removing speed as a constraint, what are the pitfalls for software engineers?
The classic is just the same as Jackie was saying, is slop. And that slop becomes features that don't work. That slop can become almost anything. It's just low grade. Just as Jackie was saying, you need the human. Well, some people are putting the human in, as AWS, as I said earlier. Some people aren't. You lose your database in 9 seconds. The feedback, the loop and adding the human in always comes back to the human, doesn't it? And hopefully what we can do is make the human more important and get the technology out of the way. Get a single person checking really good copy, checking really good image, checking really good code, and out it goes. Let's hope we can get there.
Well, those stats you talked about was quite interesting there, Douglas. You mentioned 50 features shipped by Spotify using AI-assisted development, and just 9 seconds it took to delete that production database. But we're seeing these value and risk across the board. So, in culture, Tom, there's another one from the Deloitte Global Human Capital Trends report, 65% knowing they need to change the culture, but only 7% are making progress. Tom, what are you seeing out there with clients that is holding them back from making progress with AI enabled culture?
Yeah, so I think you need to think very carefully around what it is that you're doing, right? Because if you are, I like to think about the AI. What AI can do is almost effectively either very good at automation, right? Very good at making things faster. But if you're making the wrong thing and doing that faster, then you're not seeing progress, right? So it's about how you create the opportunity to understand how effective you can be as an individual and as a team. So you have to kind of almost re-baseline and decide what better actually means up front. So you've got that real view around what it is you're looking to do. I think from the potential challenge as well is like, if you are, what's going on with the time? If we're saying that we're going to be more productive, what are we aiming to do with that time? Because actually, if we're saving 4 hours a week and then we're using that to put more things in there, are we doing the right things, and are we focusing on the areas of that we should? So I think there's this kind of quest for productivity, but also it's only going to be right if we're able to rather than just focus on making the work faster, we need to make the work better, and that means having those conversations around what it is that we're trying to achieve with this, rather than putting technology in for technology's sake. So it's about having those discussions on an ongoing basis. And I think with the kind of nature of the way that this technology is evolving at pace, we need to keep those open feedback loops and have a real iterative mindset. So like lots of the things that I'm talking to about with clients at the moment links back to some things that are not new, right? So agile principles, thinking about how you can sort of have that iterative approach, because we don't know what that tech is going to look like in 50 days down the line, right? So we need to be able to have that kind of open opportunity to iterate. Someone else asked me the other day as well, if we do something, will it be future-proof? I was like, you cannot future-proof anything in this day and age, right? So, and that was a conversation around workplace technology, but that maps directly across into to this space as well. So having that kind of iterative, curious approach to how you may be able to continually optimize is kind of the way that the organizations that take that approach, that bias towards iteration, will be the ones that win in this race.
Yeah. Tom, can I follow that up? Because there's actually a question in the Q&A from one of the LinkedIn users.
Yeah.
And they speak about Copilot being, or Microsoft being the MS stack, so everyone's kind of gravitating to kind of Copilot. And I found that when I was in a big organization, I worked the big same one as you, not taking a name drop, but they adopted Microsoft. They adopted it, because that was a suite, and they found some benefit from it. But I think things are moving so quickly that there's a lot of gains to be made by using some of the other tools. Now, Claude's obviously the big one. You've got the other frontier models in terms of Google in there as well. But I do a lot of experimenting, and the best I find for PowerPoint is Kimi 2.5, which is a Chinese model. The best I find for image generation or video generation is Seedance, which is also a Chinese model. And then a lot of the other models that actually do perform really well. And I think that you're right. You can't anticipate the future. We also had Mythos just come out, so you don't know really how powerful these things are going to be. If that wasn't just a marketing stunt, and that is genuinely how powerful the next model is going to be. What's Gemini 3.5 going to look like? What is 5.5 from ChatGPT is meant to be pretty powerful as well. And then, DeepSeek V.4 came out, the first one not built on NVIDIA, the first one built with a Huawei chip. And that is going to be pretty powerful. So you really don't know. I think you need to understand the risk tolerance and adopt mindfully, but also aware of the benefits it could bring. So plug in scale. That I do think that you do need a partner as well, or somebody that is kind of AI native to understand what the benefits can bring and to bring them on board as well. So a plug in there. So.
Yeah, group of humans that can oversee everything for you.
Exactly.
And this is those kind of opportunities for exchange, which can be so powerful. So, when we're looking at people who are like highly AI native, how can we pair those with those that aren't? And how do we create opportunities for them to have a wisdom exchange where actually they can learn from each other and actually try and break down some of that anxiety that we mentioned earlier, right? If you're able to use this as an opportunity to bring humans together to look at how they can use and evolve with this new technology, then actually you can also kind of share that knowledge across an organization, but also foster really meaningful in-person connections, particularly something that you can do at a multi-generational level, right? So there's a lot of the conversations that I'm having at the moment around kind of how we've got 5 generations in the workforce, some are digital native. Actually, what's really interesting about that is not necessarily the typical stereotypes you would think of somebody that is a digital native coming into the organization. The kind of anxiety and perceptions around AI as a concept and AI as tools cuts across all. So you can have people that are in one sort of late stage generation, later sort of career part of their work of their working life that's highly like using these tools. But then you may have somebody that is in that other scale. So you've got to really kind of look right across to understand the capability, then bring together those people that can come together and learn from each other and exchange that knowledge as well.
Thanks, Tom. Seems like I'm the laggy one, but you talked about things moving across an organization culturally and people getting into new areas of learning and new discovery. One of the things that is on everybody's lips at the moment is discoverability through AI and search and content and how that's changing. What are you seeing in the market, Elle, around how that's developing and how everything needs to be re-engineered for AI-powered search?
Yeah, I think there was the shift has kind of been in everyone's minds, and there was a lot of SEO experts out there being like, just good SEO. All you have to do is like keep your SEO strategy going, or it's all good. It's as long as you've got your good SEO kind of structure in place, it's all good. Actually, what we're seeing is it is very different. I think it's ChatGPT that's just, Google's just launched AI mode, right? So you're not even in Google anymore. If you choose to be, you can just search completely in AI mode. And whereas before we were building an SEO strategy to get people onto our landing page, onto our website, it's where we had the real estate to convert, to build brand. We had, once they're on our website, we could do all those things. And now what we're seeing is actually people aren't clicking through at all. So you've got this very, very small window within the AI answer snippet to build your brand, do your differentiation, convert people, because they might not ever click through onto the website. So it's a totally different game. And just having to think about how to build authority to get seen in the AI search, how to build thinking about long tail SEO rather than the short keywords, structuring your content so it works as a snippet rather than relying on the fact that someone will eventually land on your landing page. So although I think we've spent a few years, maybe even a couple of years where people have kind of said it's just good SEO, actually GEO is a whole different game. And I think we've all got to get on board with that and start thinking about our content in a totally different way and how we structure it in a different way. So it's exciting. And, it just goes to show that everything can change and you can't predict the future. And I think it's a really good lesson for us all, things will change and we evolve and we move. And the ones that are going to win are going to be the ones that evolve and move with the times. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's equally kind of exciting and fear drenching at the same time, right? It's both, right? There's the value if you can move fast. And Ali mentioned Mythos, right? And that was April. February was effectively Claude Code coming out and the SaaS apocalypse. It's like 2 massive months. We're only it's a few months into 2026 and it's already going crazy. And the changes in SEO there, that has a big influence on brand, on findability, and in Jackie's world, it has a huge impact on like consistency, right, of visual elements and how things are found and how that story is told. And for me, that communication of AI change inside businesses in the human transformation that Tom's talking about, that's everything, right? The communication, the sharing, getting people on board, it requires all aspects, and that's why we've assembled this kind of like multidisciplinary team at scale that has a significant amount of experience working with regulated businesses, with banks, with lawyers, with telecoms and energy providers in the UK government. So we've got a huge amount of collective experience in these areas, working for these big global regulated brands. And something else I wanted to pick up on, Tom, was the cultural change, not just in terms of how businesses need to change, but also how they're micro learning, how they're desperate to kind of learn on the job. Individuals, what have you? And I think there's that kind of in the moment now as training's happening. What would be best practice for you, Tom, in terms of like micro learning moments or new ways to skill up staff in this new AI world? Do the old models still work, Tom, or is it about training people in a different way?
Yeah, so look, I think there's a real moment actually where we will start to see some of those things that we would have thought were from the past coming back around, right? So it's definitely the year of the hackathon for sure, right? And actually kind of the concept of prompt-a-thon, prompt-along, those kind of experiential learning is critical for tools like this because everyone's figuring it out together. So you have to shift away from the kind of courses and the teaching and actually give people the hands-on experience to rather than think of it as a tool rollout, think of it as an opportunity to explore, create safe environments and sandboxes for people to play and exercise their curiosity, because that's what's going to get you the unexpected results. So it's really about kind of like I said earlier on, some of those principles, because if you have if your mindset is that you're here to experiment, you're here to iterate, you're here to find ways of optimizing, and you're constantly in that mindset, that's when you're going to start to see learning that really sticks. I've also got another thing at the moment around how do we reframe work to be more enjoyable, and I think you can design enjoyment into these experiences as well. Again, that's just another way that helps to make those stick. So I often talk about the kind of the watch one, do one, teach one model that they teach doctors, right? Because if you're watching one, knowing that you're going to teach one, then actually you're going to learn it in a different way. So I think there's lots of ways that you can be really clever around making and reframing this change as something that is exciting to be part of, an opportunity for you to kind of develop your skills, as well as optimize what you're from a business goal perspective as well. So I think we'll see a high leaning into experiential learning, co-creating together, and that kind of collaborative approach to rather than kind of courses and training courses, right? I think it'll be much more experiential.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like the creative brainstorm. It's just a visual brainstorm, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think if you can bring people along on the journey, it's like the IKEA effect, right? That you see more, then if they're come on the journey and you're experimenting together and you're creating something together within your business, everybody that was involved in that process is going to have such more accountability, responsibility towards what they created together, like with the IKEA effect, where if you've built something yourself, you place a lot more value on it. And I think if you can bring people along with the journey of learning and making it, like you said, we're all learning this at the moment. No one knows everything, and that's the beauty of it. So I think that's really cool. I love a promptathon. I do.
I wanted to pick up on the excitement comment from a software development point of view. You're putting these tools in hands of the excitement is massive, because people can build things so fast, and whatever's happening with employment, etc., there is a real buzz and there is a real ability to create stuff up, and it is really exciting to spin things up in a couple of hours and go, check it out, folks. It is fantastic, and it really is very exciting.
It's easy to be doom and gloom and all the stats about all the shadow AI that's happening and the risks that are coming. But the truth is, if you can get organized and bring people on the journey, then the potential is huge, right? And the reason the six of us are together is because we've seen where AI hasn't delivered enough value, either because adoptions fail before it's got to ROI, or it's working in different silos. And our hypothesis is that you need a fully joined up team in order to make AI completely accessible across the entire organization. If you'd like to know more about what we do, you can head over to our website at scalewithay.com, where you can see our thoughts, our white paper, and all of our latest thinking. You can also engage with something that's been mentioned a couple of times, which is our AI risk and value scorecard, which is a continuous way to measure your AI initiatives, what should be scaled, fixed, or stopped. You can go to scalewithay.com/scorecard to get more information on that, download a sample report, and find out more. Right, fantastic. Well, we've covered off a couple of the questions that have come through on LinkedIn. Maybe let's just wrap up with a kind of takeaway, or something you'd like to leave with the audience, maybe something you've seen in the news, something you're particularly excited about. For me, I'll start. I thought what you said, Jackie, about that kind of like strategic partner. I'm finding with my agents that they're now a bit longer in the tooth. I've been using them for many, many months now, that the quality of the response history that I've got with them, plus also the new models that are coming out, I'm finding that a creative sparring partner partner is taking things to the next level. I'm able to do thinking and delivery of ideas right down to slides through Perplexity and other things. The power there of having like an agent on the side is phenomenal. So that's what I'm excited about right now, as well as about getting our scale expertise into regulated SaaS businesses to help them. Jackie, what are you going to be playing with in the next week or 10 days that's exciting, or what have you seen in the news that's exciting?
I'd like to see the development of Claude Design, playing with that a bit more. That's only recently come in, and also Adobe. I like the fact that you can have your own little marketing assistant in Claude Cowork, but I see that that's coming into Adobe a little bit more. So hopefully I'll be able to upload projects and brand guidelines into Adobe, and then I can get more outputs in better quality from them. So I'm looking forward to playing with that.
I'll jump in, if that's all right.
I look forward to hearing how it goes. Top. Go for it, Ali. What's exciting you, my friend?
Well, I love my agentic stuff, and I like but safe agentic. So I really dig in Perplexity Computer just now. So if anyone's a user of Perplexity, use Perplexity Computer. It is pretty effective.
Yeah, it's very powerful, and I love the video outputs. Those for learning are fantastic. Elle, what about you? What's on your horizon?
Yeah, for me, it's the research piece, the continuous real-time scraping of social listening that we can use the AI for. So it's testing different prompts, different models, different tools of who can scrape the best real customer insight, real customer language that's going on all the time, all those conversations that are happening that are so powerful for businesses to know. For me, it's playing around with the tools that are doing that best, without having to do all the kind of connectivity side, like which ones can do it without you having to use build your own kind of connecting to the socials and stuff. So, and I've been playing around with Base 44 a little bit, the app creation tool, which I think it's actually writing really good copy in comparison to some of the other models. So yeah, for me, it's just who's writing who's actually producing the best words, and how can we train them to be even better. So yeah, I love playing around with the different models.
Nice. Tom, how about you, sir? What are you excited about in the next few days, the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so look, I'm a huge Claude fan. I'm a huge Claude co-worker. I keep finding different ways of how, thinking about how I can use it to optimize the sort of the back office stuff that I do. So it's almost kind of building that patchwork. I'm also in the process of writing a book at the moment. So it's really interesting to sort of look at how I will be using co-work as a co-partner to help me sort of structure what it is that I'm writing. But for me, the big part is how do I fuse the technology as well as analog. So I've kind of almost gone to both ends of this spectrum, right? So I go out and have my ideas, and I'm walking, I've got a pocketbook. I come back and then I'll talk back to Claude using Dictate and Whisper Flow to capture my ideas in my voice. And then I kind of use co-work to structure the parts that I'm doing and keep me on track with the planning of what I'm going to do day by day and what my sort of goals are. So I think it's really interesting when you start to fuse what the analog and the technology together to look at how that all comes together to create a kind of a whole hybrid package. So yeah, I'm very much an experimenter, and Claude is my one at the moment. So.
That's exactly where I am, Tom. I've noticed in the last kind of 18 months, I'm more and more either I'm pen and paper, or I'm deep in multiple tools. It's becoming quite extreme. When I'm in, I'm all the way in, and when I'm out, I'm completely out. And yeah, so that mirrors. How about you, Douglas? What are you looking forward to playing with in the next week, 10 days?
Well, I'm more interested in I guess it's more sort of deep technical side of it, but what seems to be happening is the models seem to be becoming commoditized. Each of the different models, people are coming up with new ones, and it seems that they are kind of tending towards the same sort of thing. Yes, they're different, they have nuances. The harness that goes around them, cursor, etc., that seems to be where the big boys are starting to play, where there's serious money and serious, we're talking a year. People are saying it takes a year to train the harnesses to be able to use the models correctly. So I'm very interested to see exactly what's going to happen with those harnesses and where that's going to go soon.
Yeah, I mean that big enterprise level timelines, pipelines of product development that you've been part of, Douglas, over a couple of years, they are fascinating, and seeing how that changes culturally, I think is going to be very interesting from a development team point of view. Also, at the other end of the spectrum, I'm loving our ability as a team. We're making features and entirely new products for clients in a matter of hours, and they are production strength. So our ability to move fast and make stuff that has an immediate impact on clients is another area that I'm absolutely buzzing about, because we can make great stuff very quickly, throw it away if we don't like it or clients don't like it. But that pace to do stuff that is coded properly or has had some human software engineering oversight is like, I'm really excited spinning stuff up for ourselves, like our internal tools and external tools. So awesome. Well, look, thanks everybody. I think we'll probably wrap things up now. Thanks very much for your time today, sharing expertise and what's happening in your world inside Scale. We us and our joined up full service approach to building AI capability. You can get more on our website, where you can also read our thought leadership and download our white papers and have a look at our snapshot AI risk and value scorecard that continuously measures where the opportunities are for your business. That's it. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for your time today. We'll wrap it up now. So thanks for sharing.
Cheers.
See you, folks.
Bye.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.